Hello, we're back with another information video with SAT score, and today we're going to be going over the top 5 fun tech tree ships to play and World of Warships. So we're going to be going over 5 different lines that we consider are the funnest to play and going down. So let's hop right into it. So the first line we're going to be going over is going to be the Soviet battleship line, the Kremlin. And oh boy, so let's talk about the Kremlin line. So the Kremlin line, as you can see, is in the Soviet tech tree. It starts at tier 3 and it goes all the way down to the tier 11 with the Yushkov being the bottom. But today we're going to be focusing on just the tier 1 through tier 10. So just focusing in on that. Pretty much this whole line is is one of the tankiest battleship lines in the game. Very tanky, high level of protection on these ships. And you also get the unique Soviet DCP, where it has a quick action cooldown and a quick consumable time. So as a 14-second, well, if you build it, it's 14 seconds, and the cooldown is 40. So you're able to get your DCP back quicker, and you're able to get it off of it going on the cooldown faster as well. So it's really nice to do that. The downside is that you have a limited number of charges for the damage control party. So even though you're able to get your DCP back quicker, so you're not as fire as much or flooding, or you get your guns knocked out, you have a limited number. So if you use up all of your damage control parties early, yeah, you're going to be suffering later in the match. The heal on these ships are also really nice as well. And overall, these ships are very, very tanky, and all of them have very high torpedo protections on them. And as you can see, very good armor. 32 millimeters torpedoes on the top, 60 millimeter bow, 150, 430 on the midsection and the citadel. Just overall, and the top of the deck is 60 millimeters. So overall, just very tanky battleship. These things are meant to be played. You can play them bow in or at a cutting angle if you wish, but they are just designed to just be heavy in the face, tanking battleships. What are your thoughts on the Kremlin line SAT score as a fun line?
They're pretty strong at all tiers. Tier 5 and Tier 6 are a bit on the not so. It's not very tanky because of their broadside poor armor and high citadels. But 7 on is pretty well armored and difficult to kill as long as you're not showing complete broadside. Their guns are also unusual in that they have the unique Russian dispersion formula. They are much more accurate at close range, but they are notably inaccurate at long range. So if you're fighting a battleship at, say, past 14, 15 kilometers, your shells are going to go all over the place. But if you're shooting them at like 5 or 6 kilometers, you're literally putting all 5 shells into one single molecule. So yeah, they're favored. It's a very good for aggressive play styles. It's you do have to watch out for secondary ships since they can just keep you on constant fire. But if you want a ship that can just push in and just sit there for ages as enemies try to chip away at you, then the Russian line is really good for that. And it also pairs well with Kuznetsov as well,
Hmm.
since his Will to Victory talent procs more often. It's a very good combination to put Kuznetsov on Kremlin or the other Russian battleships and then play ranked. Because you are often getting close, you can actually deal with the secondary ships most of the time at least. And if you do get into a problem, you can sit there and soak up damage while your teammates hopefully can do something else.
Yeah, exactly. So I did forget to mention that, and thank you for bringing it up. But yes, the shell dispersion does get better the closer the ships get. So around 14 to 15 kilometers, like SAT said, the closer the ships are to you, the more accurate they are. So if a destroyer is within that range, like say like 10, 9, 8 kilometers, all of your shells are going to be hitting one grid curve. So you get those really funny, just on the point salvos that can just do massive damage to a destroyer, which is really hilarious to see because they're not expecting it. And when it happens, they'll be like, what the hell? How did that just happen? But you know, it's good old Soviet bias. But yeah, thank you that for the Kremlin line. Yeah, Kremlin line is my personal. Whenever I was grinding down battleship lines, the Kremlin line and a lot of others people's most fun line. Like I enjoyed the whole line down, starting from the tier 6 down, but the tier 7 going down is the best. But I personally like the Ismail going down of the Kremlin. It was a lot of fun, had a fun blast, brawling, mid-ranging, just tanking, just overall just a really good experience playing the Kremlin. So that's going to be our first list, first ship on the list. So moving on to the next one, it is going to be the Yamato line. And funny enough, it's going to be and the dispersion is opposite for the Yamato from the Kremlin line. So as you can see in the tech tree, this is going to be in the Japanese naval line. Over here, you go down. It starts at tier 3 and goes all the way down to the Satsuma. Funny enough, so for the Yamato line, for most of the Japanese ships, for battleships, they have the unique dispersion where the further away they are, the more accurate they are. So when ships are closer, they are less accurate, and going out, they are more accurate. So these ships really excel at mid to long range distances, and they're really good if you enjoy that sniper playstyle. And the Yamato was the first ship in the game to have 460 millimeter shells, which allows it to pen 32 millimeter armor on the bow. If it's pointed straight in like this, it can pen in Citadel battleships or whatever is, sitting at that angle. So the Yamato is still greatly feared to this day, and the whole line is a lot of fun, and they do perform really well. Starting from For me personally, the Fuso going down to Yamato, all of it does really good. The Izumo used to be a really bad tier 9 battleship. It was one of the worst in the game, but over time, they did buff the Ismail, and it's actually a lot of fun to play nowadays. So if you've gone down the Yamato line in the past, I would definitely recommend you trying out the Izumo nowadays. It's a lot better than it was, a lot more armored, and the shells actually hit where you're aiming, which is really nice. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Yamato line being a fun line, SAT?
Not only is it a fun line, it's also great for beginners, since I feel like the Yamato line has a lot of qualities that can train up newer players on how to handle battleships.
Mm-hmm.
The line itself is also pretty solid. Like, there's no real bad ship in the line, in my opinion. And then, of course, it has your favorite ship, the Fuso, which is kind of a meme in a sense. Not, so, the Yamato is, as you said, the only tech tree battleship in the game to have 32 millimeter overmatch.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple other ships that have the 32 overmatch, but they're either super ships or premiums. Yamato is the only tech tree option for that. And of course, they're also a bit. You do have to be careful about their citadels. When you're a beginner player, yes, it does teach you, like, okay, don't show broadside or you're gonna get citadeled. If you stay angled, you'll almost always not get citadeled. So this line does a good job of teaching that. And its guns are pretty solid throughout. So not only is it like pretty strong, but I also think it's pretty fun to play as well, just because you're sitting like mid to back, you're supporting your ship, your destroyers, shooting the radar cruisers, and just generally not too hard to play as well.
And the Japanese Yamato line does come with a damage control party, a heal, and a spotter plane or fighter. And it does come with ASW planes as well, just so you guys have a reference for that. So you guys can grind that down today or whenever you like. So thank you for that SAT score. So moving on to the next line, it is going to be a cruiser line. It is going to be the Des Moines line. Now, the Des Moines line, as you can see in the tech tree, is in the US tech tree line. Starts at the St. Louis and goes down. There's a split here at the Omaha. You go to the Pepsi Cola or the Dallas. You're going to be going down the Des Moines here, which is on the right side. So the Des Moines line over time has kind of gotten a buff The Pepsi's gotten a little bit more armor over time. I don't remember if the New Orleans did, but I know the Pepsi did for sure. The funny thing is about the Des Moines line is that the Pepsi, New Orleans, Baltimore, and Buffalo kind of play differently than compared to the Des Moines. The Balti plays maybe more similarly to the Des Moines due to how it sits at islands with it having a three turret configuration, while the Buffalo has a four turret. The Buffalo is more of a open water cruiser, while the Des Moines is more of an island sitting. So it's a nice little like trying to teach you how to play both island and open water in a sense. But the Des Moines, the Americans have a special AP. What's it called for the Americans? Is it like the heavy AP or what's it called for the cruisers?
Usually, players refer to it as super heavy shells, but I don't know if that actually applies to the cruisers. It just gets enhanced AP, which improves the penetration angle from the standard 45-60 to the much steeper 60-67.5%
And what
degree angle.
and when does that start on the line?
That actually starts on the Pensacola.
Okay, so that starts all the way back there. Okay, cool.
Yep.
So the like what SAT score was saying is that the American Des Moines line has very strong ricochet angles for the AP shells. So starting from the Pepsi all the way down to the Annapolis, you get improved ricochet angles for the AP, which means you're able to citadel cruisers that are angled to you, as well as do a lot of heavy damage to battleships as well. So the Des Moines is a really heavy hitter if you know how to place those AP shells at the bow section of an angled target, because it's going to pen them, and you're even able to citadel angle targets as well. But the Des Moines is just a monstrous cruiser. Over time, due to submarines, it does suffer a little bit in randoms, but if there's no submarine in the match, oh yeah, you're going to be having a ball. The Des Moines line comes with a normal damage control party. You can pick between Hydro and DFAA, and you can pick from a radar, fighter, and spotter plane, and you also have a heal as well, which is really nice. But overall, Des Moines is one of my favorite tech tree ships in World of Warships. Very maneuverable. You like sitting around key points like capture points or areas where you know the enemy's going to be going. You sit bow in and you wait for the enemy to come by, and when they do, when you get spotted, you can pop that radar to spot the enemy and just start going ham on destroyers, cruisers, or battleships alike. And yeah, they're not going to have a fun time because this thing has a 5.5-second reload. So you'll be farming them out really quickly of both AP and HE. It's amazing on this ship overall. Just so much fun to play. What are your thoughts on the Des Moines line SAT?
I feel like the Des Moines line is a kind of the line that rewards you for just knowing how the line works and then having the skills to utilize all of their tools.
Mm-hmm.
So Des Moines is a pretty good close range DPM powerhouse, but not only that, it gets radar to counter destroyers if you know what you're doing. The main issue with it is that it's a bit squishy. Good battleships can overmatch it, and then even citadel you if they know where to aim. And then it's also on the relatively squishy side even then. And a lot of players like to play it around islands. It's a lot easier to get closer, and you can utilize that radar and shoot destroyers when you poke out. But I'm thinking if you're more experienced with her, and then you can play in open water as well, you just have a very strong DPM machine that can counter pretty much anything effectively. And when you carry those matches, when you get your E's, it feels like you put in the work to make that ship work, because the line's not very easy. And battleships will not hesitate to try and depth strike you for even thinking about bowing in. So you really have to be on your game in order to do well with those ships. But the game does reward you when you use them correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've made plenty of mistakes while playing the Des Moines, popping out bow in front of a battleship. and I wasn't paying attention too much, and you just get absolutely death struck by them because, yeah, they can go right through that bow and they can citadel you. So, yep, you do got to be careful of that. So you got to be very situationally aware and not show your bow too much, or you'll get death struck. So definitely be aware of that for sure. So thank you for that, SAT. Moving on, we're going to be going on to our fourth pick. And let us guys know in the comments what your top fun tech tree ships are in the World of Warships. Let me know in the comments. Would greatly appreciate that. So moving on, it is going to be the Daring line. So the Daring line starts in the British tech tree. Let's just head over here real quick. It is the only DD line for the British. It starts at the Medea, goes all the way down here to the Icarus, and then it goes down to the Daring. So the Daring line starting from, it's the Jutland, right? For the AP.
The enhanced AP is only the Jutland and Daring.
So starting at the Jutland and the Daring, it gets enhanced AP that are pretty much short fuse AP. And that short fuse AP makes it where you're able to do pen damage to pretty much every destroyer in the game if you're able to pen them. So if they angle too much, you're not going to be able to do it. But if they're broadside enough, they're showing enough side, you'll be able to do pen damage on them over and over again. And that is like massive 3, 4, 5,000 damage per salvo, by the way. And you will absolutely melt any destroyer that gives you that. Now, the HE is also great as well. The line does come with torpedoes, which is really nice. And you can also single fire the torpedoes as well. So if there is a cruiser or a battleship setting an island or coming at you in a straight line, you can single fire all of those torpedoes and nuke whatever that target is. And it's really funny to do that when you actually get to do it. It is quite hilarious. Now, the line does come with the British short burst smoke generator, which allows you to enter and leave engagements rather quickly. So it makes it where you can just quickly smoke up, leave, or smoke up and farm, and then leave. You also get a 3-kilometer Hydra, which is really nice for spotting torpedoes. And you also have heals as well, which are really nice. And the Daring line overall is very maneuverable with their turning radius. The speed, it's not the quickest, 36.8 knot top speed, but the turning radius and rudder shift make up for that for sure. Also, the guns are also 360, so it makes it really easy to turn your guns in and out, like when you're turning or dodging and weaving. So you'll always have all of your guns in the fight. So overall, very fun, versatile destroyer, really fun to play overall. The whole line was an absolute blast when I played it. The Daring, Jutland, Lightning, Jervis, they're all amazing ships to play. But what are your thoughts on this line, SAT?
I would say it's the most forgiving of all of the destroyer lines, which is extremely welcome considering destroyers are heavily punished whenever they make a mistake. And if you do make a mistake in a British destroyer, you just smoke up. You even got hydro, so you don't get accidentally torped. So with that, you're probably one of the most defensive destroyers. You can spot enemy ships. If the enemy destroyer runs into you, you have guns that your guns are reasonable, but you can just smoke up and run away if needed. And you do get those single fire torpedoes. They're a bit on the shorter end of range, but the single fire option is pretty funny when you're torping bow-in ships or super predictable battleships. The Jutland and Daring are pretty strong ships as well. Well, Jutland a little bit less so since Wargaming literally nerfed her like 600 times. But Daring herself has always been a very solid ship. The only negative I would say is just that they're on the slow end. They don't get any speed boost, but they do get enhanced acceleration. So your dodging is actually pretty unique, and a lot of players will miss the first shot because they're not used to how fast you accelerate. So if you want to play very fun, like a very maneuverable ship that's also very forgiving and has reasonable firepower, then the Royal Navy destroyers are the best for that.
All right, so on to our final ship line recommendation for today. It is going to be the Libertad line. Yep, we had to put it on here. So, the Libertad line, huh? So, it is in the Pan American tech tree line. It starts at, as you see here, at the cruiser. It splits off, goes to the Eparonga, Los Andes, and Libertad. And I still don't know completely what they were thinking for how strong they made these ships. But let's just break it down for the Libertad itself. So Libertad gets 12 419 millimeter guns with a 33-second reload. The ship also gets combat instructions, so where as it takes potential damage and when it hits ships with the main battery, it gets progress for its secondaries. And these secondaries, when it's activated, it increases range by 20%, has a 20% faster reload, and a 30% more damage. So for the Libertad in particular, the base secondary range is 12.5 when you build into it. And as you can see, these are pretty big secondaries, 234 millimeter secondaries with 8.4-second reload, and they have a pin of 59 millimeters. And the small secondaries have 21 millimeters a pin, and they have a 3.8-second reload. So when you have that combat instruction active, you get a lot of damage pumping out from these secondaries, and you get your secondaries out to 15.1 kilometers, which is the longest secondary range in the game. So, and these secondaries, when they have the combat instruction up, they become the highest secondary DPM in the game, correct? SAT?
I don't think it's the highest tech. I'm actually not sure on top of my head. I know it has the highest range, but I'm not sure if it actually beats Sleepin in terms of pure DPM.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sleepin wins in practical DPM just because it has the 32 millimeter pen with IFHE.
Mm-hmm.
But Libertad definitely comes very close in terms of paper DPM.
Okay. But yeah, so going off of all that, the ship is also very heavily armored. 32 off the bow, 51 millimeters off the side, and 51 at the deck. Overall, these ships are very heavily armored. On paper, they're supposed to be very easily sittable, but in practice, yeah, they're very hard to citadel for some reason. You have to hit them at the turret section, like the front here, or at the rear section to be able to citadel them. It's kind of rare to citadel them. The Los Andes and the Iparonga seem to be the easier ones to citadel, especially the Iparonga. Overall, the Iparonga is the easiest to citadel out of all three of them. So if you're trying to get a citadels on them, you'll be more likely to get it on the Iparonga overall. And overall, this line overall is a very, very strong line. Even though they did get nerfed, they made it where originally when they first came out, they had improved acceleration, kind of like the British destroyers or the British destroyers and the British cruisers. But they took that off, so it no longer had that. No, wait, does it still have the improved? They just made it where during turns it can't keep it up as much.
Yeah, it loses acceleration in turns, remember correctly. But other parts of acceleration was not nerfed. However,
Okay.
Wargaming worded it.
Yeah, it was very weird wording on how they did that. That's why I got confused myself. But yeah, the ring was a little bit off. They did nerf the secondary DPM on the Los Andes, which was very much needed because this thing pretty much just destroyed every other tier 9 battleship at the tier, and it still does. The Los Andes, Iparonga, and the Libertad all are very strong secondary cruisers, and by far the most versatile most versatile ships on this list that can be taken to pretty much every game mode, and they're going to be doing amazingly well. So for the most fun, I feel like the Libertad. Also, if you put Lisboa on them, it makes them even stronger. Because Lisboa makes it where you're able to get your combat instruction faster. It improves your secondary and your main gun reload. It's just insane overall with Lisboa and these things combined. And I'll let SAT Score do his final thoughts on this Libertad line.
It does start at only tier 8 with the Ipiranga. You have to branch out or spend free XP on the light cruiser line up until tier 7. But the end result is kinda ridiculous. Like, not only, like, all 3 ships are super strong. Ipiranga, when she was in early access, she was spammed like crazy, even in randoms. That's how strong she was. And then when people got their hands on the Los Andes and Libertad, oh boy, like, they were absolutely dominating before they were nerfed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's kind of funny, like, Wargaming made a secondary ship that line that was stronger than the Germans, and the difference wasn't even close.
Mm-hmm.
The, like, supposedly it's weak to torpedoes like other secondary ships, but it just accelerates a lot of the time. So most of the torpedoes just miss because you shoot the Libertad expecting to behave like a normal battleship, and then it presses W and just zooms out of the way. If you get close to it, obviously you die, but even if you stand pretty far away, he activates combat instructions and still hits you regardless. It was just so hard to deal with, and it was so powerful that you even see her being played competitively. Wargaming did nerf the Los Andes pretty hard. They did some nerfs to Ipiranga and Libertad as well, but they're still very strong. And if you have Lisboa and you're playing it in ranked, then just GG. As long as you manage your health properly, anything that gets caught within your secondary range is just dead. There's not much you can do about it. It's not like it's not a ship you can easily kill like the Sleafin, and actually has threatening secondaries, unlike the Kurfürst or the Prusen.
Mm-hmm. But yep, that is going to be it. Thank you so much, SAT, for today's video. But that is going to be it. If you guys have any questions or concerns, also let us know in the comments what is your top fun tech tree lines to grind. And I will talk to y'all later. Deuces.